The Castro Theater is such an important space in San Francisco. It's really the epicenter of LGBTQ culture in San Francisco and probably the world.
The building was built in 1922 by an architect named Timothy Pfluger. Originally this building was just a movie theater, a movie palace.
So I was part of a team that came out into San Francisco specifically looking for a 1,400 seat venue. Once we came in and met with the owners, it took about a year to get the final contract resolved. We had a lot of conversations with them. The model of being a repertory film business wasn't going to keep them open for much longer. They couldn't sustain this model. And we wanted to create a space where you can be a successful repertory film house and show popular music and have drag shows and have podcasts and comedy shows and all types of entertainment.
Because it's historic and because the building materials 100 years ago contained lead and asbestos, one thing that's really critical about us is that we had to do a lot of surveys in order to make sure where we're cutting into doesn't have asbestos or lead that could contaminate the entire job site and our workers. So safety is a huge issue for us, and making sure we have certified supervisors dealing with asbestos and lead, making sure anytime we cut into somewhere, anytime we dig somewhere, that area is checked, it's punch list, and then we can do the work.
So we've been acting as a general contractor for Another Planet for about 15 years, and when they took on this project, they asked us to get involved, and the first step was the blade sign renovation and the marquee. We started by setting up scaffold around that blade sign so that we could remove the loose and flaky lead-based paint and then prep it for new paint and all new neon sign lights. We also put a new hat, if you will, sheet metal hat on top of the sign because it was all rusted out after being here 100 years. And then we put a new roof on the marquee, the horizontal signage.
Although it was built in the Art Deco era, Pfluger incorporated a lot of different types of architectural styles here.
And we want to preserve the elements that were already here originally. We can't just dig into and cut into any walls that make it easier on our construction part.
From the 20s to the 80s, you could smoke inside. So a lot of the original plaster work was just preserved in nicotine, which was really goopy and sticky and disgusting and stinky. But they found the right solution of how to get the nicotine out and preserve the paint underneath. And in the very center of our cupola is original paint from 1922 that didn't need to be touched up. It had been preserved in nicotine for all these years.
That gold, very ornate proscenium that you see back there has been covered for many, many, many years because it just used to accommodate a smaller movie screen.
It hadn't been seen for decades. That one of the family members who owns the theater and basically grew up here said she didn't remember seeing it for probably 40 years.
The work that Evergreen is doing is essentially conservation and restoration of the proscenium and other decorative features in the theater. And so we've been focusing on the proscenium. The lower you got, closer to the floor, just covered in a dark soot and really thick, fluffy dust. So we want to remove any kind of smoke or soot and nicotine off the surface. We've done a full deep clean, which includes dry cleaning, brushing with vacuums and sponges, and then a chemical cleaning with a kind of pH neutral cleaning solution. Once that surface is clean, then we repair all of the cracks and losses. Once that's done, then we're ready for gilding. So we're going to be re-gilding the surface and repainting it, since this is the front piece of the stage. The process I'm doing now is just priming all of the fills so that they can receive paint and then receive gold leaf.
If you notice the artwork on the ceiling, they represent different symbols from different cultures around the world. And his goal was to make people feel like if you're coming into a movie theater, you are escaping to different parts of the world, and he wanted to reflect that.
Everything has lead, everything has asbestos, so it's like, okay, 1922 buildings are like that, but the wiring needs to be replaced, the plumbing needs to be upgraded, there's no mechanical system, so we have to do structural reinforcement on the roof to accommodate the new HVAC system. We've got a trench across the street to get new power to tap into a PG&E transformer.
So do you see all those little holes in the ceiling? Those are for the chain that's going to hang and catch the lighting trusses that'll hang below the ceiling. So these new trusses are holding light and speakers and such for shows, and they're anchored to steel that's on top of the roof.
The other thing too, unfortunately that's bagged up, but this just got redone. It is the original chandelier from the building.
They asked Timothy Pfluger to design it, and by 1939 he was well into his Art Deco era. So the chandelier that's hanging up was built in 1939 by a company called Phoenix Day, which is based in Richmond, California. They're still in business. The great nephew of the person who built it originally did all of the rewiring and restoration. And it's just that great family story about this building has been in the same family for over 100 years. Build out we're doing behind me is to create a tiered system that's mechanical, that it's almost like a trundle bed system where when you want to have individual rows for seats, you know, a 36-inch row that's 6 inches tall comes out. Otherwise, all of those tiers come back in, and we have 4 or 5 tiers for a general admission show for dancing and socializing. We're making the stage fully ADA accessible, and the green room will be ADA accessible, as well as the full orchestra level.
We have a big importance on combining practicality with theory. So we use construction tools like Procore, like Sketches, in order to do really in-depth as-builds. We have a great project engineer and project assistant on the team that is all they do, is our as-builds, making sure that we're checking our subcontractors' as-builds as well, because we want to make sure 100 years from now, if they do any renovations, that is consistent. Because right now, as we're finding, not everything is in a plan and not everything is on an as-build. So hopefully we're going to be forward-thinking for the next contractor 100 years from now to be able to restore it to its beauty and not be so surprised and caught up with, you know, what comes up with construction. Some of the things that we did initially was do a lot of community outreach and making sure the neighbors and the clients, the retail shops were comfortable with us coming in, and that we weren't just coming in and taking over everyone's site, because that's not what we want for the community.
You know, we start 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, work till about 3:30 or 4, and I think everybody's been super gracious with their time and their understanding of trying to get this done in the middle of a very busy neighborhood, right?